with today?
Yes, it looks like we've got the vast majority of folks.
Almost everybody's here, so we'll go ahead and open up the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here on our brisk pace. After this, we get a few weeks off, so don't worry about it. We're gonna get a little bit of a breather. A couple of administrative items up front. We did receive a resignation from Milo Salgado. He actually just retired from his career and wants to take some time off, and I don't blame him. So he will be missed, but we were looking to see if we can get somebody to replace that spot. That is ultimately a city council decision. So Brian, keep us posted on that. If there's anything we can do to help, feel free to reach out. Thanks to everybody here for working in your little groups. I had fun in my group. Had a little bit of irreverent humor, which always helps make projects go faster. But I think that was actually a really good way of dividing up the work. And I appreciate everybody making that work on such short notice. I also asked the staff for a list of people who have gone out and done the speakers bureaus. I was going to call you out, but come to find out, a whole bunch of people have done community outreach, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you've done some sort of outreach at the Speakers Bureau, you can go ahead and raise your hand right now, and that will be your acknowledgement. And thank you all so much. That's been that's a really important part of what our job is. So other than that, let's roll into the main business, our minute confirmation. So the minutes from last meeting have been distributed. I did not see anything that needed correcting. Is there any other additions or corrections to the minutes from the group? Really good job to staff. Love it. Okay, the minutes are approved as submitted. Therefore, I will hand it over to Mr. Jensen, the project manager, and he will take us through the agenda.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just kind of a recap of where we are here in this process. We're still but on time in the vision statement phase. And as you folks well know from your work groups and all this word struggling you got to do, although I'm sure it was pretty easy. Where we are now is today we're going to work on completing the focus area vision statements, at least as a draft. And the idea is that after this meeting, and between now and the next meeting late in May, we will be sending those out in a survey to the community and getting input from the community as to whether or not they hit the mark from their perspective, or if there are concepts that they feel are missing or just don't make sense to them. And we will come back after the survey is done and bring you the information from the community, and then you'll have one more chance to take a look at the core vision statement and the focus area vision statements, decide if you want to make any additional changes based on what the community said. And at that point, then we move on to the council adopting the vision statement on June 17th. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. After that, we're then moving into the action planning phase. One of the things I want to point out is that Seth and myself and the rest of the team, we're keeping a list of the potential strategies and actions so that when we get to that action planning stage, we can hit the ground running. And already have a list of things in the hopper that we can use for discussion. So that'll be great. But the main thing we've got to do today is get through these focus area statements, get your sign off on that so we can get out to the community after this. So that's the game plan. Thank you.
I'm just going to let you keep going. So questions for Eric? No questions for Eric. All right.
Okay.
Update on public involvement, public input.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to show one little slide here. So give me 1 second. So first of all, thanks again to everybody who raised your hands for helping us do public outreach for this project. We know it's really important, and it's all your good work that's making community engagement happen. So thank you. So where we are, the last survey was collecting our input, which was our fodder that we used to draft the vision statements that you're all working hard on. And now the next stage is to share your draft statements with the community and collect feedback on it to get an idea on if we're heading in the right direction or not, if we interpreted all the input that we received the way the community was feeling about it. So our objectives for this survey is to collect feedback on the draft vision statements, and then also ask for them to start thinking about some ideas for actions to achieve those vision statements. So it'll be a pretty simple survey that shows the drafts and asks those questions. For our distribution tools, we're using a lot of the tools that we used before, but we know that we've got some gaps to try to reach more Latino, Latina, Latinx, and Spanish-speaking populations and communities of color. And so we want to be mindful of that as we're doing our outreach. We will have one new tool that I've put an asterisk next to, which is a utility bill insert that the city puts out and goes to everyone who's on the city utilities. So that should get us some new eyes on the survey. And so we're looking forward to that. And then we're going to be looking to you to continue reaching out to the groups that you're speaking with, to let them know that we're at a new stage of the project and we want their feedback on the draft statements. And I would love your help thinking about and identifying other community groups we could be reaching out to try to get the populations that we want to seek. I know Lily has been doing a great job with the Spanish speaking outreach last time. So we're gonna ask for her help again, but I think we can all share in trying to reach some of these other communities. So I just wanted to open up and first, now that you're looking at these distribution tools, ask you if there's other tools you think we should be trying to use to engage more of the Medford community. I'll be quiet for a second.
Anybody?
I would say for me, we can definitely add it to the chamber newsletter that we send out every month to over 5,000 businesses.
That's fantastic.
I would like to add, Seth, that the organizations that provide services to Latinos, like La Clinica, I mean, I have a great contact over there, if nothing else, to find out what those organizations, if they will be willing to provide the survey to their employees, to that way they can get a mass of people doing it at the same time. And the other one, and I don't know if we already reached out to those, is Harry and David. I mean, I don't know, because tons and tons of Latino people works over there. In Amy's Kitchen. Amy's Kitchen works 24/7. So, and I also have a contact there that might help us to get to the people who can distribute that survey, and also do the employers themselves, have them provide their input. I know Amy's Kitchen is in White City, but of course, most of the people that works there are probably Medford residents. So
yeah, I would expect White City to be part of our community circle.
Yeah. Okay, that's what it came to mind right now. Like Clinica, and I have a great contact I can provide it to you later of the person that we can reach out to. That's
really helpful, Lily, especially if you have a contact. Thank you very much.
Yes. So they have no choice. They have to answer to me.
we'll follow up with you for those details. Thank you.
Mr. Densmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple of 3 ideas. Do we still have an arrangement with public access television or something similar?
I'm looking to city staff for that.
Looking to Brian. I think I still pay the PEG fee, so yeah.
Yeah, we still do.
I wondered if there wouldn't be, I don't know if now is the right time, but whether that might not be a tool that would be of some help. Also, perhaps short interviews on a variety of radio stations, just talking about the project generally. And perhaps I know that Deanne Evertson and United Way have quite an extensive network of communication that I think should be included as well.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Thorndike, then Marta, and we'll keep going after that.
Good. I'm muted. There we go. Seth, have you given any more thought to trying to work through nextdoor.com on the different neighborhood postings that they have?
Yeah, so my understanding is we need community members
to do that?
do the posting. So any of you, if you have access to Nextdoor, could post it to your own profile, and we would welcome you, ask you to do that.
I will do it to the Payne Road group.
All right.
P-A-Y-N-E, not P-A.
Thank you.
Marta.
Thank you. I will also post to Nextdoor, but I'll also commit the Downtown Medford Association. We will be sharing it if the timing works out in our newsletter, but especially in our social media page. Additionally, each city councilor, because we have 4 wards, they have their own social media page. So when it comes to neighborhoods, because that's kind of my representation among other things on this group, I think I would be confident approaching the city councilors, if it's aligned with their social media strategy, to share it on their respective pages, because that's how you reach people in neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Carter, then Mr. Montero.
Yeah, what I was thinking is that the Housing Authority could distribute this to all of our residents who live in the city of Medford. We have quite a few hundred households that could be represented as part of this survey. So we could get those out that way, in addition to posting it on our social media.
That's something you can do, Cara?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
That would be fantastic. Mr. Montero.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So just first a question where it talks about utility bill inserts. I presume that that's talking about Medford utilities. And the reason I raise that is with so many rental units where typically the landlord pays those utilities, the tenants don't always get contacted through that. So I don't know if that's, if there's other opportunities. So there's number one. Number two, if you would just email me what you're looking for from the major employers. As it turns out, serendipitously, I've got a meeting with my clients at Harry and David on Friday. I'll be happy to talk to them.
Great.
Seth, does that give you enough communications fodder between now and the next meeting?
Yes, I think this is all great support. Thank you all very much.
All right. And thank you to everybody who's stepping up. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Last, I wanted Rachel to give an update on how you all are doing on the Speakers Bureau and just give some credit to the work that you all have been doing.
Thank you, Seth. Just a quick update on the fabulous Speakers Bureau. It is building week over week, which has been wonderful to see. I know that a lot of you are working within your circles and might not have had the chance to just share with me who you're presenting to or anything like that, but some of you have, and so I've seen over 20 presentations that have been completed, and some of those groups include the airport stakeholders group, One Rogue Valley, Pallet Wine clients and their teams, Harry and David, but please, Mike, do reshare with them as there's been changes. The Latino Interagency Committee, the MSD School Board, the Asante Executive Team, Rogue Valley Country Club, Medford Transportation Commission, Downtown Medford Association, Rogue Retreat, RCC Board of Education, RCC Foundation Board, some Rotary clubs, the Southern Oregon Education Leadership Council, Access Board, Brit Board, Pacific Power Regional Employees. Christina Kruger shared, and there's over 250 people there, so that's wonderful. The Rogue Valley Clean Cities Coalition, the Medford Chamber Board, and Providence Medical Center leaders as well. So a lot of really great, really varied community groups, which is wonderful. And of course, that's such a goal for us here. So I ask that for those of you who have already spoken or are planning to speak, just please keep that that conversation going. It's, if you can, it's good to have it be a multiple kind of connect with them multiple times throughout this process. Again, it's a year-long process, so there's updates to be had, and of course we have more surveys coming out. So just please do touch base with them again if you've already spoken with them, and serve that as an update, or, oh, we have another survey coming up, here's the link. That would be great. We will be working on sending you out an updated talking points document, as the last one we sent was, I believe, in February. And of course, a lot has changed. So after this meeting, we'll include more up-to-date information for you to share with those groups as well. If you have plans to speak with groups or you haven't yet contacted me, please reach out. Again, Rachel Eckstein, because it's just really helpful to know and to kind of see from a broader view what groups, if there's any gaps missing, or any gaps, and any groups that we really need to make a more concerted effort to reach out to. That being said, we also have a one member of the public who has asked for a presentation. So I'm hoping that we can get someone today to volunteer to speak to them. It's the Medford Bear Creek Rotary Club. Yeah, Bear Creek. And it would be a Monday Zoom at noon, and it's they said you'd have up to 30 minutes. So they tentatively have a April 26th or a May 10th opportunity, but we can communicate with them and confirm that, and I would of course coordinate that. So is there anyone here today that would be interested, willing, available to connect with the Medford Bear Creek Rotary Club? I can't see anyone, so if anyone's able.
Like to check.
Christina's raising her hand.
Christina is waving, so it looks
Oh,
like
sorry, I
you
couldn't
do
see anyone.
a fantastic job.
Christina Kruger. Okay, I'll connect with you. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, and I think that ends it for me. So back to Eric.
I keep turning that mute button on and off. Sometimes I get it mixed up. Okay, so we're now going to get into the meat of the meeting here in terms of the vision statement. And what we're going to do today is we're going to briefly, not right now, but in a little while, we're going to take a look at the core vision statement that you folks agreed on last time and wanted some alternatives to look at, just to tweak it just a little bit because we had an awkward sentence in there. And so I sent you some options with regard to that. And so we'll grapple with that a little bit, hopefully not very long. And then we're going to take each of the focus area vision statements that your groups came up with and walk through those in the same way, but even more expeditiously than we did with the core statement last week. So that's the game plan. What we're going to do is we're going to start off initially by having representatives of each work group present their vision statement for that focus area and explain kind of the rationale behind what was in it, and also how the community input impacted that statement. 5 minutes max for each group. And once we get through all of that, then we'll get into the discussion portion. Sandy is prepared as each group comes up to put the wording up there, so you can just talk right off of that, so you don't have to worry about trying to put it up on your own screen. So any questions about how we're going to go about this? Going, gone. All right. The first group that we have on the list here is fostering economic growth and resiliency. And that, I believe, is Jerry.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. So first of all, we had Milo on our team and he dropped out. So we had a pinch hitter, which was Marta. So appreciate Marta stepping up and coming over to our team and adding everything that she did add. She's very brilliant and we were happy to have her. We had a pretty robust discussion about this. Gosh, just so much could go into this, this section right here. And we had to really scale it down and try to be concise. And it's probably even a little bit more wordy than I would like. But I mean, in order to grasp the big picture of it all, we pretty much toned it down to just these 3 or 4 paragraphs. So let me begin by just reading it off. In the year 2040, Medford has a diverse, sustainable, and innovative economic base that provides for successful businesses and competitive wages. Fortune 500 companies, small business, and startups have the opportunity for organic growth and access to geographic markets from local to global. Top quality professional and educational training opportunities provide a constant source pipeline for skilled workforce to pursue successful career paths. The city of Medford fosters the development, retention, and growth of a variety of business types and sizes through quality planning efforts and affordable business services and utilities. Medford residents enjoy quality senior living and full spectrum of family support services. An interstate highway system, rail access, and an international commercial air service airport provide convenient and affordable travel and shipping options. Medford's economy grows and diversifies with the times, allowing anchor industries and modern business models to develop and expand as needed when needed. Medford has a vast and affordable residential and employment real estate market to serve business and corporate campus activity. Downtown Medford is a vibrant core business and residential district offering a mix of retail, cultural, entertainment, and culinary attractions for residents and visitors. So like I said, we all had our ideas on where this was headed. We had some really robust conversations, scaled it down to this, and this is what we ended up with. I appreciated my team members' input, and we probably went back and forth, maybe even a little bit longer, Eric, than you would have liked, because I think we sent you 3 drafts, but we were just kind of trying to hone in on exactly what we were trying to say and how we like to say it.
Well, you definitely put in the blood, sweat, and tears in terms of coming up with this statement, and it's a little longer, but it's very substantive. So we'll get a chance to talk about it a little bit later. Any clarification questions before we move on? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next group, which is Enhancing Hometown. And I believe, Al, you are the presenter for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and everyone. I'd like to first acknowledge the contributions from my teammates, Brett and Kathy and Chris. We, I think, took the approach that we liked the draft statement a lot, but we tried to add a couple of 3 concepts into the wording without making it longer. So let me go ahead and read it. In the year 2040, Medford is a place people are proud to call home because of the quality of life, sense of community, and inclusive environment. It's a place where all generations, races, and cultures are welcome and embraced as valued parts of the broader community. Affordable housing, strong K-12 schools, access to higher education, childcare, job opportunities, and quality health care provide a foundation for lifelong living in Medford. In addition, family-oriented and multicultural recreational amenities offer opportunities to enhance quality of life through the arts, community events, sports, shopping, libraries, and eateries. Medford neighborhoods are attractive, safe, and accessible for their residents. Gathering places such as parks serve as centers for resident interaction and community building. I think the concepts that we most focused on was that one of the critical parts of defining hometown is embracing the arc of the community's history. And we feel like that's an important element in any planning that goes under this particular focus area. We talked a lot about the downtown as a potential focus area. We talked about perhaps incorporating Founder Square type of ideas that embraced telling the stories of the individuals and groups of citizens that have built the community over the years, and making sure with a diverse arrangement of that we're including so many people and using that historic arc of the hometown to be an important element. I think the second area, if we think about it, K through 12 schools in particular already serve as gathering places, centers of activity, opportunities to build community. So I would think that would be an area that we might want to call out in the future. And then the last paragraph, we talked about maybe opportunities for community building. And I tried to once again lobby my experience with the Allsrud Family Playground as an opportunity for perhaps we can create and build community physically around the community, identifying projects every year or two where the whole community can kind of use a barn raising attitude to building community and working together as neighbors. So I think those were the things that I remember us discussing, but of course, I'm the one doing the narrating. I wonder if Kathy or any of the other members of the committee have anything they want to share.
I know we really had a strong feeling about history, creating a sense of place, and that there's a lot of diversity built into our history that should and could and should be elaborated on so that all groups feel welcome.
Agreed.
Okay, and in terms of the community input that was received earlier on, any any influence there that you want to point out?
I'm not sure that I can come up with anything dramatically. I did try to reread some of the guidance and the things that were included, and I think that the statements are general enough to respond to those.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, thank you, Al. Unless you have anything else, we'll move on to the next group. And I believe we have Connecting Community with Mr. Chair as a spokesperson.
Why, thank you, Mr. Facilitator. And thanks to Tom and Linda. We had a blast putting this together. We really did try to keep it within our word, the original limit. So we had to make some difficult choices, but I'll walk us through this. And we'll go sentence by sentence. So in the year 2040, Medford connects community both socially and physically to promote inclusivity and accessibility. That was really the theme that we wanted to start with, based on the feedback we received from the public and based from the discussion that we've had in this group, that the overarching theme of connecting people is so that we're inclusive and accessible to all. Gathering places where people interact and build relationships are located throughout the city, such as public squares, parks, restaurants, and places of worship. We encourage social connection through public festivals, concerts, and events. The City of Medford facilitates public awareness and diverse participation in its decisions and actions. So that second paragraph is tying into that desire for people to feel like they're part of a small, close-knit community. And while we recognize that we are not a small community, there are things that we can do if we're deliberate that will keep that feeling, that will keep that connection to the local community alive. So that's what we talk about in the first couple of sentences. That last sentence of paragraph 2 is about really the more formal interaction with the City of Medford, the actual municipal government. I think the draft statement was a little clinical about that, and it talked about participation. We wanted to broaden it out a little bit to say that everyone can be aware of how the government is working for them and can participate in its decisions and its actions. That could be either by having more diversity amongst elected and appointed officials, or better outreach, or any combination of those things. Finally, last paragraph says, attractive and intuitive physical connections provide effective access to the places within Medford. Multimodal transportation infrastructure allows mobility within the region and promotes a cohesive community. Our robust public transit and wayfinding systems support businesses, schools, and tourism. So this is a little more of the traditional transportation stuff. We think there's something to be said for, a transportation system isn't just an engineering project. Having it be attractive and intuitive is really what makes a place feel like a community. Your roads, your bridges, your pathways, they can look good and be a complement to what you have, as opposed to like an eyesore. We also like multimodal because we know that's important, because we have a diverse community in terms of income, in terms of age, in terms of what people are doing. Are they going to school? Are they retirement? Are they working? And multimodal helps address a lot of that, as does public transit. We felt like it was very important to have a call out to public transit. We have a very good transit system here, but that's going to remain to be important over the next 20 years. Finally, we called out wayfinding and the fact that transit and wayfinding needs to support businesses, schools, and tourism. It's a virtuous circle that a good transportation system supports all of those items. It's not just about commerce or just about, schools. So Tom, Linda, feel free to augment what I said, or if anybody else has questions, that's now's the time.
Yeah, I think that was a real good summation of what we went through. We got into some really specific things, but then we wanted to pull back so that it didn't get misinterpreted, so that it tried to focus more in the broad sense. And then, like what was said there, that last paragraph, we're trying to also make sure the city looks ahead to where it wants to be. Because I know for myself, I can't find a wayfinding system today.
Mr. Densmore and then Mr. Conrad.
Very good, Daniel. Just one suggestion. The term multimodal is more of a geeky governmental word, in my view, than the larger community might. The county is now embracing a new active transportation plan for the county. And I wonder if linking it to a term like that might be useful.
That is something we discussed. We know that's a very technical word that doesn't resonate with anyone except bicycle advocates. So we are absolutely open to suggestion there. We just couldn't think of anything better, quite honestly. Denny.
Thank you. Sorry about being a little bit late this afternoon. So I don't know the rules. I'm just going to jump in and make a comment. I really like the way this flows from a philosophical notion around community and connectivity to an interpersonal look at it, to the actual physical aspects of it. So I don't know if that was your intent to layer it that way, but it really resonates with me. Thank you.
Absolutely. That was 100% our intent and represented an hour of deliberation. Yes. A little facetious, but we did talk about it actually, about how it makes sense to step through it that way. Who else? Somebody else has their hand up. It's Marta.
Yes, on the multimodal component, I don't bike. I haven't been on a bike in 10 years, and yet I love it here because it's about having, bus stops where people are employed. It is about having that bike. It's about being pedestrian friendly. It's about that livability. So I don't bike, and I love multimodal. And there's also it's echoing something we said in the economic development group. So strong support for multimodal inclusion over here.
Yeah, it's multimodal makes sense to all of us people that are involved in these types of work groups. I just don't know if it translates, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll have discussion about some of these
Yeah.
issues going forward, but I already made a note that that's one to cover on this.
Okay. Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then, Mr. Chair, is there anything you would like to say with regard to the responsiveness to the community input that's been received?
We really tried to get that first sentence to reflect the community input. We thought it was important to hit it right up top, and that frames up the rest of the discussion. I hope that's how it is read, but that was our intent.
Great. Thank you. All right, so now we are moving on to the next one, and that is fostering safety and wellness. And I believe we have Ms. Carter.
Yes, so fostering safety and wellness, we started with reading through the community comments and then trying to pick out the themes that seemed like they were most important to the community and incorporating them into our statement, which is, in the year 2040, people feel safe in their homes, neighborhoods, and public places. Seniors and people who experience disabilities enjoy ease of mobility and activity through inclusive and thoughtful planning. Community resources, both public and private, are allocated to support vulnerable populations in addressing health and wellness. Proactive emergency planning bolsters resiliency and provides preventative and responsive measures for public safety during times of crisis. As a regional hub for high-quality healthcare services, community members have equal access to healthcare, prevention services, and education. And we felt there was more we could have said, but we were trying to be succinct and not get too prescriptive in how we felt these things should be happening, but more broad. And as far as the emergency planning, there were quite a few comments, I believe, under safety about that. Mostly in my thought was related to the wildfire, but we also wanted to include things like COVID-19. And so that's why we put times of crisis as the community planning piece rather than in response to wildfires. And if anybody else from the group had anything they wanted to add that I might have missed.
No, you captured it.
Great. Well, unless there's any other clarification, question, or comment from the work group, congratulations on your brevity.
I do have Eric, I do have a question on that where Kara, I was talking about times of crisis. How about if we add the word and natural disasters? Because sometimes we get flooding, sometimes we get, you know, strong winds or snow or whatever. So it will cover all bases. I don't know. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we talked about that back and forth quite a bit, and that's where we came up with crisis, figuring it would cover natural disasters and maybe public health crises, all in one word. We can expand on that if the group thinks that's something we should do.
Okay, well, I made a note to come back to that. Okay. Anything else on this one? Questions? Oh, Mike.
Yeah, I like the language, proactive emergency planning. And so when you get down to strategic or implementation plans, there's a whole array of resiliency planning that's actually active and underway right now. And we'll be happy to provide that to you if and when that comes up.
Great.
Anything else, Kara, you'd like to add?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so last but not least, we have promoting recreation opportunity, and Eli, I believe you're up on that one.
You got it. Thanks, Eric. So we started by self-naming and dubbing ourselves the Fun Recreational Group. It was Alan Purdy, Brian Shotun, and Marta and myself. I'll start by reading it. Medford, as the heart of the Rogue Valley, celebrates our success as a premier recreation destination in the Northwest. With an exceptional climate and natural beauty, Medford is the recreational hub of the West, offering a number of world-class recreational assets, drawing people from all over to enjoy the natural wonders of Southern Oregon. Residents and visitors enjoy the opportunity to play and compete in sports leagues and competitions and participate in year-round family-oriented activities that are accessible to all. Our incredible park system and premier facilities offer abundant opportunities for safe and healthy living for residents and draw visitors. Medford leads in developing excellent indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities with an unparalleled quality of life for all. I'll begin by saying we did talk a lot about some of the community input and influence. We wanted to make sure that we highlighted, and one thing that remained was the accessibility. Also our incredible climate. Safety was an issue, as well as making sure it was family friendly. We also wanted to put in there as Medford as a regional hub, really underscoring our natural beauty and what surrounds us. Also wanted to highlight not just the importance of our locals, which is of most importance in our own citizens, but also making sure that we tie in the visitors and visitations that happen because of our world-class facilities. And then we put the recreation as it is one of our pillars in our community and something we're already good at. We wanted to make sure we named claim to the hub of the West, and having recreation being something that we're not just known for in Southern Oregon, but something that we're known for the West. I don't know if anybody else in the group has any other comments.
Not looking like it. All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Eli?
I think that's good.
That's great. Nice summary. And you guys did a really nice job with that. Everybody did great jobs with all of their statements. So really pleased, and thank you very much for everybody who put a lot of hard work and time and sweat into it. And I know that we gave you a fairly short timeline. I apologize for that. We will be doing more of this sort of thing as we move forward, but we're going to give you a little more lead time next time. So, but in any case, it was really great to see the thought that you put into it, and some of the statements changed quite a bit, and some changed just a little bit from kind of what we started with. And that's great, as long as you made it your own. Okay, so with that, we're going to move on and talk a little bit about the vision core statement and put that one to bed. And then I believe we are scheduled after that to take a break and then start tackling these. So we shall move forward, if that's all right, Mr. Chair. All right, got the head nod and the thumbs up. Okay, so I sent out to you a couple of alternatives because there was one sentence that we were kind of grappling with at the end. We didn't have time, and we were asked to at least offer up a couple of alternatives. These are very minor, but the sentence that was in question is the first one. In the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, and welcoming, semicolon, an inclusive urban community that embraces and celebrates the stunning beauty of its environment. We tried to bridge that semicolon in a couple of different ways. By saying in option one, in the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, welcoming, and inclusive urban community that embraces and celebrates the stunning beauty of its environment. And then the other is in the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, welcoming. That's all the same as the first option. And inclusive urban community, but we broke it up into two sentences and then said it embraces and celebrates the stunning beauty of its environment. So any comments, any thoughts about an alternative that you like better than another, or none of the above? Looking for hands, or
Mr. Conrad has his hand
oh
raised.
Yeah, just a quick question. I don't actually have a preference on those two, but I was wondering about the word urban. Are we convinced that we're a urban community, or that we're a community that embraces? What's the background and the thinking around the word urban on that?
I'll take a stab
okay.
at this. You know, a lot of people said we want Medford to be a small town, but that's just not the way that we're going. I think our population today is somewhere around 88,000, and that's overnight. Our daytime population easily clears 100,000, gets somewhere up to 120. 20 years from now, it's going to be even more for both just citizens that live here and people that come here. Whether we like it or not, we are going to be an urban community in 20 years. And so acknowledging it and trying to say our vision is consistent with that was the direction that we wanted to go. Part of the discussion, at least how I interpreted it, was the decision to grow has been the subject of an extensive public process through the regional or RPS, regional problem solving or regional planning, I can't remember, and also the urban growth boundary process that the city itself has gone through, has had scads and scads of public input. And the decision there was to bring in more land and to grow and increase our urban footprint and to increase density within the already annexed limits of Medford. There are other communities who have made just the opposite decision. You think of places like Jacksonville that are not, or Ashland, that aren't expanding their urban growth boundary. They've decided to stay the size that they are. So that's the train of logic that got us to there. I mean, it's a difficult decision because it's inconsistent with the express wishes of a big chunk of the population who says we want to be a small town, but we're not getting any smaller. Does that sum it up? Does anybody else, does that answer your question, Denny?
Well,
Mike has a comment. Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah, I unmuted it. Yeah, Denny, I get it. I mean, I think you're exactly right. That's what we want. I think what this vision plan does, at least with regard to its goals, is to acknowledge we're going to be urban, but yet to have a commitment to maintain that small community feel through the implementation of this plan.
I was just curious at the starting point on the phrase urban, because to me, urban doesn't imply large, or large doesn't imply urban. It's kind of a mindset that there will be a city and an inner city kind of development activity that makes it a defined urban area. I was just curious. I'm not opposed to it. I was just wondering where that came from.
This was actually a topic of a lot of discussion at the last meeting. And in fact, many of these words in here were hard fought and wrestled with. So I think there are fingerprints over just about every word on that statement. But good question. Good question. Mike, did you have another comment, or is your hand still up? You're stretching? Okay. All right. So what are your thoughts in terms of landing this plane here? Do any of these options work for you, or do you just like the original, want to keep it? Jerry?
I would just say, in my opinion, I think option one flows a little bit nicer. And I'll also go back to that last comment about the urban. I believe at the last meeting, Marta brought up some statistics about the economic development in the area, and we actually are classified as an urban district. So maybe she could clarify that. But I like option one is what I really want to try to say.
All right. Is there anybody else that would? Lilia?
Yes. Regarding the Option 1 and option 2 is fine with me. The line, the last line where it says all generations and cultures work together to foster prosperous community for all. We have community right before all generations. So I was thinking not to repeat the word, say all generations and cultures work together to foster prosperity for all. And, you know, because we have prosperous community and we have community right above it. So I was just trying to get rid of the word community again, not repeat it. So to foster prosperity for all.
I think that makes sense. Is there any objection to that?
But we're striking, I want to make sure, we're striking after foster a prosperous community, right?
I change it to foster prosperity
For all.
for all.
Okay, good, good. Any concerns about making that change? Marta, no, okay. All right, well, we're gonna roll with that, and we're gonna move. I want to go back to the original change that we were talking about. Jerry, you were comfortable with option 1. Is everybody else comfortable with option 1? In which case we can move quickly. So I got thumbs up. I'm looking at lots of thumbs up. Okay.
Martha has her hand up.
Who has hand up here?
Marta, go ahead.
Marta. Okay. Oh, thank you, Marta. Yeah.
Sure. I love option 1. On the word urban, the statistics that were discussed in chat extensively last time, they were more about not including small town or smallness rather than including the term urban. So I am not emotionally attached to the term urban. It's just several of us felt that small town was restrictive, limiting in spirit, and not reflective of the current situation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you're not proposing any changes at this point in time. Okay, great. All right, so I think we have a fairly complete statement here, unless anybody else has any other thoughts or objections with option number 1, and we will roll forward with option number 1 as the test core statement going out to the community. All right, okay. So with that, we're Mr. Chair, we're running a little ahead of schedule. What's your pleasure?
I'm okay if we take a break. Is that okay with everybody else? You want to do that right now, or do you want to keep mushing? Eric, are you okay with a break right now?
I'm fine.
All right, let's break and be back at 3:10. Let's 15-minute break. We will commence promptly at 3:10.
Well, all right, is everybody ready to do word wrestling? All right, we're going to do the same thing that we did before with the core statement at the last meeting, and we're going to go through each statement and talk about it and see whether or not there are any modifications, concerns that you have, and come to an agreement on all 5. So, and I actually made some notes myself, a few things that you may want to talk about. So let's just start at the top. And so what Sandy has in front of you there is the fostering economic growth and resiliency statement. And then we have over in the right-hand side a place just to kind of make notes so we can kind of keep a tally here, just like we did last time, but this time it's all on one page or one screen. So I would like to first open it up and see if anybody has any comments with regard to the statement. Does it hit the mark? Does it not hit the mark? And if so, why? And Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And I think this is a really great start to this statement. I go down to the second paragraph where it says the city of Medford fosters the development, retention, and growth of a variety of business types and size through quality planning efforts and affordable business services and utilities. And I think that is, you know, the city, obviously, it's our role and responsibility regarding planning and also utilities. But when it talks about the retention and growth, that's really done through a partnership with, you know, So Ready, the chamber, and the business community in general. So I'm wondering, instead of calling out the city of Medford, is maybe it's, you know, the city and business partners or whatever, however it could be reworded.
Okay. All right. We're going to make
simplify it down to we, as you say, we foster. That's, you know.
All right, well, let's put a placeholder on that. Sandy's going to make a note on the side, and we're going to circle back. But what we're hearing from Brian is he doesn't want the sole responsibility. So, all right, Denny.
Yeah, just a quick question. When you're developing these kind of vision statements, do you worry when there's a statement like top quality without defining what that is, or is that defined in some other place?
Generally speaking, you want to avoid absolute statements that will get you in trouble and look like you've achieved failure if you don't hit that highest bar. And you know, top quality is one of those that I think could go both ways. And so I don't, as your vision advisor, I don't feel particularly that it's a problem unless you do.
I'm just trying to figure out what it actually means. And that's the case for any vision statement, is it's a definable direction that you're going in. And so, I mean, is it top quality mean it's the best in Oregon? Is it the best on the West Coast? How do we define top quality? Because it's both an absolute and ambiguous at the same time.
Brian, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I think Denny brings up a really great point. And, you know, I look at the So Ready agenda today, and, you know, it says the most business-friendly region in the West Coast. And I've always wondered, how do you measure whether we're the most business-friendly on the West Coast? So maybe it's just quality professional and educational training opportunities.
Or do we want to tweak it to say like broadly accessible? Do we? I mean, I think we all know it's quality, but we want to say that everyone can get to it, and we have this huge pipeline of educated workforce that can support our businesses. Is that more where the group was trying to get to?
Looking.
Oh, this is Jerry. I'm listening to your comments and everything, but I've done vision statements before for different communities and economic development agencies. And I don't think there's anything wrong with patting yourself on the back. I mean, we have, as we all know, highly trained professional workforce, top quality hospitals in the area. And you're right, who's to say that they're top quality? We do. I mean, there's nobody that I've spoken to that says, boy, the hospitals around here really are not that great. I mean, we all believe in this community that they're top quality. So yes, it's ambiguous, but I bet you each and every one of these vision statements has something ambiguous in it that can be judged. So I don't know. I tend to think that should stay in there to differentiate just quality services from top quality, but maybe members of my team see different.
Okay, Kathy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, my experience with missions, visions, strategic plans is the mission and your goals and objectives have to be measurable. Your vision does not. Your vision is supposed to be aspirational and is supposed to describe a future state that you may never actually reach, but it's what you aspire to. And you know, it shows a commitment towards a direction that you're going. It's not necessarily what you measure. You're measuring your goals and objectives.
And Kathy,
That's a good point.
yeah, and that is a good point. And given that statement, do you have any thoughts about that wording in the context of what you just said?
The more aspirational, the better, as far as I'm concerned. We're strategic planning at the college right now, so I've been looking at a lot of other plans, both institutions like Rogue, but also I've been looking at a lot of cities' plans as well. And short, memorable, and very aspirational, something that motivates people to want to be a part of the work.
So in terms of the words top quality, that still falls into that aspirational category for you?
Aspirational, but it's not motivational.
Okay. Good. Any other comments on this particular item? Okay, we're going to make a list and we're going to circle back. So any other comments with regard to this vision focus area statement?
How do people feel about the, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have a, talking about the vision. I was looking at the Medford Police booklet and we have here, which I thought it was a little bit very aspirational. It says, we aspire to be a world-class agency, which protects our community and serves as a model for character, collaboration, and service to meet the challenges of tomorrow. So I thought, wow, that is inspirational because he's talking about world-class agency with MPD. And another one that I came to mind to Kathy's point about very inspirational is Umpqua Bank. They call themselves the world's greatest bank because they call themselves the greatest bank, the world's greatest bank. And I go, wow, that is inspirational. Anyway, it's just a couple comments that vision could be very aspirational, I guess.
Right. Okay, so along the same lines. Okay, very good. Any other comments on that?
Are we comfortable with the length? I mean, I like everything in it. It's awfully long. I think it's our second tier, so I don't know that it's a problem. I want to hear what other people think about that.
Okay.
Can you read it again, please? Can somebody read it again?
Oh, the whole statement?
It'll take too long.
Yeah. So Daniel, to your point, I do this for a living as well, and for the last company I worked for was even much larger than the one I work for now. It was $14 billion company. And our task was to create something and make it aspirational, memorable, so that people would know where it came from. And I don't know that anybody's going to memorize this, or even the high level one. How do you keep it to 5 words, to 10 words? And sometimes, because of the complexities of all the things that we're dealing with and the variety of people that are engaged, you have to be a little bit more wordy to be inclusive of thoughts. But I think they're too long, to be real honest.
Okay. Typically, statements are a little shorter. Al, you've been raising your hand.
I just wonder, given the charge that we had in the hometown section, whether or not the downtown Medford it has some overlap between the two areas. And I wonder if this or downtown area is simply a call out more of hometown. To a degree.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that down as something we want to definitely come back to and talk about. Good point, Al. Anything else? I've got one that I would like to put out there for you to at least talk about. And that is, you have a statement in here of, in the second paragraph, last sentence, Medford residents enjoy quality senior living and full spectrum of family support services. And I'd like to pose the question to the group as on our list here. Of whether or not this is the place that you want that statement. So as opposed to a different focus area. Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, we're going to start kind of hammering through this. Yeah, Denny.
Yeah, just a quick thought for the whole group. When I read through all of these, it felt like they were written by 5 different people thinking in 5 different ways and had 5 different flows, which they did. It would be interesting as we walk through them to see how we can make it look like they're written by the same person, so to speak, or at least the flow and the theme and the tenor is similar, because they do look very, very different. I don't know how you go about doing that, Eric.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a challenge, but I think as we go through this, we'll be able to see some of the continuity between the statements, and we can help smooth the edges out a little bit. And we may be able also, after we get this kind of road tested, be able to fine tune a little bit in the next round too. So, all right, and Bill?
Yeah, so I finally got everything tuned back in. Just, a comment about why we included senior living and family oriented work is, originally we were crafting words around the importance of childcare, and we decided that was too narrow, but it's really important for the future economic growth of our area around that. So I thought it was an elegant way to make sure that we kind of noted that, and when we get down to tactics and strategies and stuff, it certainly will tie in there. The other thing is kind of two-pronged. One is that retirement living is a huge industry in the Rogue Valley, and we just wanted to make sure we recognize that. And then also really tying it in that hopefully after a successful economic career, that the Medford resident will want to stay in Medford and take advantage of the senior living opportunities we have, which is something, again, that we can actually market compared to areas where you do your career and then you move away to someplace else. Here we have that. So again, how we can incorporate in the fact that we have this unique asset around senior living, and that two, we recognize that whether it's raising parents, young children, childcare, those things are also critical to our economic health going forward. So, I mean, if we could tighten it up some way, that's fine. But I think those are two really important elements that we want to include and will differentiate us in the future.
Okay. And that's always the challenge in these vision statements, is trying to figure out, where does it belong, because there's so much crossover here and interconnectivity. So, but we will talk about that. Okay, great. So with everybody's permission, I'd like to just kind of hammer through some of these issues that were brought up. The first one that was brought up is the top quality statement. Are folks comfortable with that, or does somebody want to propose a language statement to address that particular issue?
I think it's.
Let's try hands, and digital hands I see better, but I'll look for physical hands too. Sorry, somebody was talking. Was that you, Kathy? Yes.
Exceptional.
Exceptional, professional, and educational training opportunities. Exceptional, professional, and educational training opportunities. Does that resonate?
Yeah, I just feel like some of this stuff isn't the vision. It's how we're going to make the vision happen. And so I just want us to be thinking about what's the vision and what are the pieces of this that actually make the vision happen, because they may actually fall into goals and objectives later.
Mm-hmm. And typically what we're looking for here is we're looking for outcomes at this stage. And when we get to the action planning stage, we're going to be looking for, okay, how do we strategize moving forward, and what are those actions? So, but from your perspective, this actually is more of a strategy than it is an aspirational vision. Okay, I saw another hand go up. I thought, no. How do folks feel about Kathy's comment? We got a thumbs up from Al and from Brian.
So point of clarification, would top quality go away and exceptional be the word that we use? Because it seems redundant to have them both.
My interpretation of that particular edit was that top quality went away and exceptional takes the place. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Mr. Chair.
Does it make sense to have educational training? Are we concerned about going to non-educational training classes where you're not learning anything? I guess my question is, when you were, I mean, I've been to some, don't worry, but when you're talking about professional and educational, are you talking about like academic versus vocational? Was that the intent there? Or what are we trying to compare and contrast there?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we were just trying to get the educational component in there. It could definitely be reworded. Maybe that's redundant, educational and training.
So, do we want?
Okay, so
Yeah.
All right. So we take educational out, correct?
Or make it flow like it's on the screen, where it's professional, educational, and training opportunities. Those are what provide the pipeline of a skilled workforce. And
All
that
right.
makes sense.
Okay, so as Sandy has it written up there now. Okay, how do the rest of you feel about that? Anybody else want to give a thumbs up or want to make a suggestion? We don't need to carry this on. If you're all on the same page, let's keep it. Okay, we're going to roll unless I hear somebody yelp. Okay, so that takes care of that issue. And then the home. Okay, the next one that I wanted to come to actually is the Medford fosters the development, retention, and growth that Brian was entirely responsible for keeping business going in Medford. So, Mr. Chair, you had made a recommendation, I thought, on this.
I said just shorten it to we, because it's a community vision statement. That's what we did in my working group. We used a lot of "we will do this" because that's our aspirational target. Because Brian's right. It's more than just the corporate, establishment of the city. It's all sorts of things are going to feed into this.
One thing to consider there is that you are interjecting a new pronoun that's not been used in any of the vision statements. And to the point that was raised earlier in terms of these being different,
yeah,
we're going to move away from that. Is there another way to get at that same point?
Well, what we ran into in our group was that we said community too many times. Community this, community that. It got really boring.
Mm-hmm. Can you move fosters to the beginning of the, or no, say the development, retention, and growth of a variety of business types and sizes is fostered through planning efforts? Can we switch that around? Does that work?
That works, making it active. And then in the spirit of shrinking it, Eric, I don't know about our vision including affordable utilities. I'm on the board of the Water Commission, which is the municipal utility, and I'm thrilled that you all thought that we're doing a great job, but I don't know, it just seems like a pretty in the weeds thing.
Okay, so hold that thought for just a second, Daniel, or is everybody okay with the way we restructured that sentence? I've got a thumbs up from Jerry, and that's what I need from Jerry. Okay. Looks like I've got it okay. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to the utility point that Mr. Chair, Daniel, you were bringing up. So taking that out would be your recommendation?
If we're trying to shorten, I think that would be the low hanging fruit of shortening.
This is Bill. I'm totally against that. I think one of the unique things we have is we have an electrical utility that has state-of-the-art equipment and delivering the power we need. We have a natural gas supplier that has put in redundancy, and we have the ability to, in case of a problem, to have natural gas here. The different fiber networks we have, there's 5 huge networks, within a mile of Medford going north and south. I absolutely refuse to not recognize in fostering economic growth and resiliency that we have partnerships with our utilities that make this a very unique place. And again, I'm sorry I actually got melded in with planning and permitting and all of that, but I think it's a critical thing that we need to highlight, because I think it's what differentiates us from areas that don't have that. Go to Coos Bay if you want to see what happens when you don't.
Bill, I wish you would be a little more distinctive and forceful in your opinion.
I'm okay leaving it in. I don't disagree with anything Bill said, just on the brevity issue, but I'm okay leaving it in because he's right.
Okay. Anybody else have a feeling one way or the other about that? If not, we're going to move on. Okay, utility stays. All right. The next one I want to bring up, and kind of walking down the list here. Medford, I've got my own list, sorry, and Sandy's got a list there too. But is that statement about residents enjoy quality senior living and full spectrum of family support services? Bill, I think you made a case for keeping that in initially when we brought that up, or at least what the thinking was. Does anybody else have a thought about that? Does that belong here in this particular vision statement?
This is Lilia. I definitely support the fact that senior living should be there. We have tons and tons of people who move to the area, which because of that, because they're seniors and they cannot afford any other place, or other places, I should say. So I think it's important that we keep it, and it's a great marketing for us here in the Rogue Valley.
Okay, and the question that I'm raising is not whether or not the concept should be taken out, but whether it belongs in this particular statement versus another one. Al.
I just wanted to agree with Bill significantly. Living in the manor right now, I'm noticing that the manor's strategy in terms of marketing is becoming even more focused in light of the pandemic on our local region, and as well as Southwest Oregon, Northern California. So we're going to need to foster what Bill is talking about in terms of people spending their working careers here, but wanting to stay here. I think, and we'll continue this as a vital sector of the economy by aligning it that way.
Okay, well, I think there's no question that in terms of the concept in the statement, that's highly valued by this group. And whether it belongs here or belongs someplace else, I always look at it from the standpoint of, okay, we're going to start doing an action plan. And when we start doing an action plan on the economic front, is that's where it belongs. But it sounds like everybody is pretty comfortable with where it is. Am I correct? Okay. All right, so we're just going to move on then. And the next item on there is the hometown versus downtown overlap. Whether or not the paragraph dealing with downtown Medford belongs here or belongs someplace else? Who wants to kick that off? So far, we're okay, Marta.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the mention of a downtown in this particular area out of 5 was driven by the feedback that Seth reported on a couple of times from 2 different surveys. So the way that it's mentioned here really talks about how it's a little bit more than just, a welcoming living room of the valley, even though we kind of threw that language around, but Jerry cut it down to a really succinct statement. So I also happen to be on the Downtown Medford Association board, and we want to be, and we are a key component of a vibrant and economically resilient city. That's why this particular statement belongs in the fostering economic growth and resiliency. That's kind of my case, or our case.
Okay, so you're making a case for keeping it where it is. Anybody want to make a case for moving it? All right, we're going to save ourselves some time. Excellent. All right, so these were the things that I picked up in our conversation or the discussion. Is there anything else on this particular statement that you would like to try and address before we move on? Seeing none, we're going to call this one good, and we're going to move on. Congratulations, you are 20% there. Okay. So we are now moving on to enhancing hometown. And does anybody want to kick off comments on that? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a list, then we're going to come back and address it. Anything you want to talk about with regard to this statement?
I have just an observation. The sentence, Medford neighborhoods are attractive, safe, and accessible to their residents, overlaps the statement that we put together on safety and wellness as well.
Okay, so we'll make a note about that. Good observation, Denny. Any other comments? Otherwise, it looks fine to everybody. Kathy.
I noticed that there's another group that talks about gathering places and parks and creating networks. And we might want to compare those and see if we can distinguish them a little more.
Okay. All right, so we may want to flip back and forth here when we get to that discussion. Okay. Kathy, do you remember where that other one was offhand? I believe it might be connecting.
It's the next one. It's connecting.
Yeah, I think it's
okay, good. All right, we'll just make a note to look back there. All right, any other comments? Otherwise, this looks fine to folks. We're making good time. All right. Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that last paragraph. But let's start by skipping ahead for this one. Sandy, can you skip ahead to the connecting community? Whoop, there we go. And so the statement that you're suggesting may be overlapping here is that second paragraph, correct? Gathering places where people interact and build relationships are located throughout the city, such as public squares, parks, restaurants, and places of worship. We encourage social connection through public festivals, concerts, and events. The city of Medford facilitates public awareness and diverse participation in its decisions and actions. So the first part of that is the overlap, the first sentence or two. Let's scroll back to the last one. Thanks, Sandy. All right, so having taken a look at that and taking a look at this one, what are your thoughts? Does it belong here? and we need to fix the other one, or does it need to be moved? Kathy?
This particular one seems to have more emphasis on history and connecting people to the history of the region as well as each other. So I don't know if we can use that to distinguish them a little more from each other.
Does it work for you from that standpoint if you look through that lens?
It does for me, because this one's about enhancing hometown and a sense of place. And when you're creating a sense of place, the history is a big part of that. History and culture are a big part of that. So and there's going to be a little overlap here, I think, but I do think that we can focus on the linkage to the rich heritage. I don't know if we can expound on that a little bit.
Okay, so Kathy, just to summarize, with that lens, you're fine with this as it is. Al, you have you had your hand up a couple times.
I would just want to argue from the standpoint that, you know, we talk about downtown, and I've been working on downtown as long as I've been here. And downtown is a neighborhood too. And really where we want to go with downtown is where we've wanted to go for a long time, which is more people living downtown so that it truly is integrated as a neighborhood. So I would argue that the neighborhood and hometown linkage is really important here, in that downtown has one of the neighborhoods in the city that needs to be strengthened and attended to, and that connects with our history too. So I just think that it belongs here, I think.
So Al, with a slightly different lens, you're agreeing with Kathy in terms of the outcome, which is basically to keep it where it is, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Marta, I saw your hand up. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up, like thumbs up. Okay, anybody else have any thoughts about this? All right, going, gone, this stays. And that was the only topic on this particular vision statement, focus area statement. So we'll move on to number 3, which is connecting community. So we'll go through the same exercise here. Does this hit the mark? Are there
Need a better word than multimodal.
Multimodal, that's right. So
I'm not necessarily advocating for that because I know Marta loves it. It came up and I think it merits a little bit of discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
How about polymodal?
Okay. All right, we're coming up with new words. So we'll come back to that. Any other? Oh, we got a frowny face. Okay.
Eric, I could offer something I use sometimes is just transportation choices.
Okay, comma, transportation choices. Yeah. All right. Anything else with this statement, and then we'll come back and we'll talk.
A quick question for Seth. Seth, I did put up the connection to the webpage on Nextdoor, and somebody responded back and thought that the survey was closed. I'm saying no, it's still open, even though we originally said March, right?
Sorry. So the survey we used to make these statements is closed. The new survey will be open April 26th.
The new one will open April 26th. Okay,
yes.
I will correct that. I didn't realize. So.
And I should have said that in my presentation.
Okay. Great. Okay.
And just to that point, while we're on this tangent here, Seth, there is an opportunity if somebody just wants to make general comments.
Absolutely. There's the open comment form.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So back to the connecting community statement. Anything else besides the multimodal transportation choices issue you want to bring up? Does anybody need a delivery of coffee? Okay. So, all right, let's talk about multimodal. Anybody have a recommendation here for an alternative?
This is the same problem we had, so.
Multifaceted.
How about a variety?
Al?
Al's got his hand up.
I like Seth's approach, but maybe we could say multiple transportation choices allows the mobility.
There are various.
Multiple transportation choices. Okay, so we've got a recommendation on the table. Anybody? Oh, great, Christina.
So my thought is that if we say the word choice, then we're implying that there is one. Multimodal actually it kind of is inclusive of people that maybe are in wheelchairs or other types of equipment or devices. So I think my vote is to keep multimodal.
Okay, we have an advocate for multimodal. All right, and okay, and so we have two choices here at the moment: multiple transportation choices or keeping the multimodal. Who else would like to weigh in on this one way or the other, or out in left field? Okay, Kathy.
Well, kind of bouncing off of what Christina just said, multimodal, I don't know if it implies ADA compliance or not, but we don't really address that anywhere. And it's perhaps something that we do want to call out.
Talk about accessibility in the first sentence. I mean, it's not specific to ADA access, but
Right.
Yeah. So, Kathy, you would like to see the word accessibility in there. Is that correct?
Yeah, if we're gonna talk about how people get around, I mean, our bus system is ADA compliant. We have ramps in our downtown area and other places around the city. It shows, it not only demonstrates to people with disabilities that we're thinking about them, it demonstrates to the whole community that we're thinking about non-mainstream people.
Okay, and so that would be where in this statement? And I see your hand, Marta, so right with you.
Maybe allows widely accessible mobility within the region.
That's what's there, right? So allows accessible mobility?
Widely.
Al, is your comment related to this?
Yes, it is.
And Marta, is yours related to this? Okay, we're gonna go with Marta first and then Al. Okay, Kathy, hold on to that thought. Marta, what's your thought?
If the purpose of the document is to truly guide the city councils, and city investment going forward for decades, multimodal is pretty clear about implying multiple transportation choices, whereas verbatim multiple transportation choices is not it does not necessitate action and prioritization. That's why I advocate for keeping multimodal, and I really like keeping accessibility in the first overarching statement.
The first overarching statement. Okay. So which we already have in that first paragraph. Okay, so your feeling is that covers it. Okay, Al?
as someone who's been involved in transportation issues for a long time, it's been my view that folks in the policy level that are driving a lot of potential future programs are moving away from multimodal and talking more about active transportation and choices like that, because they fit a lot of different individual situations. When Medford grew as a community after World War II and exploded in growth from 10,000 to 30,000 in the space of a few years, one of the things that didn't happen was there was no retrofit for the impact of the automobile. And there's a tremendous part of Medford that has existed since World War II that still don't have good sidewalks that you can walk on if you want to walk, or whether if you want to roll a wheelchair over them, they aren't accessible. So I think that programmatically, until we face that, we won't have a very inclusive community where people have choices. How about the choice to just go down to a grocery store in your neighborhood, walk there, pick up the groceries and come home? Save the planet. I don't know how to work.
You feel very strongly that using the word multimodal is problematic from that standpoint.
I think in the future it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got.
Maybe I haven't had coffee. I don't know what.
We're going to get some delivered here. Marta, do you have any additional thoughts?
Sure. The ODA documentation, like the short-term transportation strategy, they talk about multimodal neighborhoods. Like, that's a phrase. I used to work for ODA. That's where Business Oregon recruited me from. So maybe we're just looking at just different lenses. All of my exposure to the transportation world has multimodal as a word in the future. Active transportation is also good. I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just, I think we'll have more guidance when we open it up to the public, especially seeing how we have folks on different spectrum, different sides of the spectrum here. Because like, I'm all multimodal and not everybody is, and that's okay. Let's see what the public says.
Yeah. So,
since this is our shortest statement, we have a little bit of room. Can we just bridge that, Al, by saying multimodal and active transportation?
I
got the.
This is why you get
the big plus from Marta there.
This is why you get the big bucks.
Because they're both important, and they really do attack different things. I think both Al and Marta have very important points here, and
yeah,
it's worth calling out, in my opinion.
I like it. Other thoughts with regard to that modification? Marta or Al? Thumbs up. Al, thumbs up. I love it. Oh, 2 thumbs up from Marta. Okay. Is that kind of the same as a double rainbow? All right. Anyway. Okay. So we have taken care of that issue. And that was the only issue that was brought up on this one. Unless anybody else wants to bring up another thought. Otherwise, it's going to be gone. Okay, moving on. We are now talking about fostering safety and wellness, and thoughts about that. Any observations? And it's okay to say, hey, I really like this particular statement. Denny?
This is where the first sentence was redundant with the second vision statement, I think, where we talk about feel safe in their homes, neighborhood, and public places.
Oh, okay. That was in the enhancing hometown.
I believe that's what it was. Maybe it's different enough that it's not a big deal, but it seems a little redundant.
There's a statement in enhancing hometown, Medford neighborhoods are attractive, safe, and accessible for the residents. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. This was actually, I think, a topic that we discussed around fire, police, and safety in the community. So maybe it's different.
Well, you know, in the case of one of the others, you know, we talked about the difference in terms of the lens that was being applied to it. And if you're looking at this through a different lens, then it may be warranted to keep it, but it's up to you folks. Anybody else have thoughts about that? Anybody feel strongly one way or the other? Oh, not getting a lot of traction here. All right, so Denny, recognizing that, we'll put it down just to come back to it, just in case it is.
All right. Yeah, I'm fine with it. It felt redundant, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is based on the lens that you're talking about.
Got it. Okay. Any other comments with regard to fostering safety and wellness? Wow. Folks are so quiet today. Okay. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. And Denny, if you're okay with the one sentence, it seems to me that the group is okay with the statement as it currently stands. Is that a fair statement? At least a thumbs up. We got 2. 3, 4. Okay, excellent. All right, we're going to move on. All right, we're on to the last one. Making really good time. Promoting recreation opportunity. Comments about that one? Good, bad, or indifferent? Work groups did a really good job. I'll just give it 30 more seconds. Denny, yes.
Yeah, I would just like to understand the difference between Heart of the Rogue Valley and Hub of the West.
Someone like to tackle that? Eli?
Yep. Yeah, I'll jump in. I think the Heart of the Rogue is not only our citywide tagline, but I think it identifies more of a sense of place in who we are as the regional hub. I think as it relates to the recreational hub, I think part of this stems from the reality that, you know, Travel Medford with the new Road Credit Union Community Complex moving forward, we are going to be starting to brand ourselves. We don't know what we're going to call it quite yet, if it's the youth sports or recreational hub of the West, but as it relates to our facilities, our climate, and one of our pillars, which is recreational sports, we want to claim ourselves as one of the best in the West at that. So that's kind of how the hub came to be, even though it might not be called that. But as it relates to Medford and our region, it's actually Medford proper that has these facilities that offer much, and they're one of our pillars. So kind of a little difference there as it relates to the tagline and recreation.
Denny, does that resonate with you? Thumbs up. All right. Any other comments with regard to this particular statement?
This is Bill. I guess I just go back to remember our unique place on the West Coast between San Francisco, Sacramento, Seattle, Portland. I mean, I don't know if it really talks about the fact that, you know, teams, families, events, we're a day's drive from major metropolitan areas. And so, you know, as we say, you know, if we want the kids from Seattle to play against the kids from San Francisco, this is a place where they can both drive to, and we're going to have unbelievable facilities to do that. So whether or not that really is part of our vision, I don't know, but I mean, that's also, I think, part of the reality of what we have shown, particularly with US Cellular Park, and we hope to show, more so in the future. So, but as to whether or not we get by saying the Rogue Valley, most people don't know outside the Rogue Valley what the Rogue Valley is, or, going back to the hubs or whatever. But I mean, we are kind of the hub of the West Coast.
And
we try to capture that with
another nation myself. So
okay, hold on here. I had a bunch of people going all at once. Well, first of all, going back to Bill for just a second. So Bill, what I'm hearing here in terms of what's being said of being the hub of the West, you're advocating for that concept in terms of it being important in this statement. Would that be correct?
that is correct. And I do want to let you know that that's a boiler room behind me out at the VA domiciliary that we worked on last year. So we're in the boiler room now. We're working hard in the boiler room.
I like it. I like it.
A lot of steam coming from you.
All right. There were some other people that are starting to talk. If you raise your hand or just give me a signal somehow, a friendly signal. Oh, okay. Any other comments about this? This seems to resonate with everybody from what I can tell. All right. Again, you're a quiet group today. All right. So I'm going to say going, gone. This one's done. Congratulations. You folks have drafts, final drafts, if you will, to go out to the community with all these statements. It was evident that the work that the work groups did really paid off here. You put a lot of thought into it, and it resonated with the rest of your task force members. And the changes that we made are pretty minimal in my experience. I'm used to, I was concerned coming into this that we may not have enough time today. And I am very pleasantly surprised that you folks are all on board. I would like, however, as a facilitator, it's my habit to check in with people who are unusually quiet and just make sure that they're comfortable with where we ended up. Linda, we didn't hear much from you. What are your thoughts?
So I'm a big listener, and I thought everything looked and sounded great. All the changes, the little tweaks, but I agree. I thought each statement was pretty solid coming into today's meeting.
Okay, great. Kara?
I didn't talk enough already, huh? I thought the work groups did a good job. I really didn't have a whole lot that I felt strongly about. Yeah, that was good.
Excellent. All right, just wanted to double check. I think everybody else has been very active. Oh, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. I just, Eric, you mentioned that you kind of were dug in for the long haul for this and that we're a little quiet. I have to be honest, when I read all of these, they just really resonated. And I really thank all of you for participating in this process. And we have folks that aren't here today that participated in developing these statements. And I was telling KJ during the break that, man, this just really aligns so much with what our council is talking about for their next biennial goals. It was like, are all of you like listening to, the council have discussions about this? And so I think that's maybe a little behind the reason why is we didn't have maybe more of a robust discussion, is because the work was just so great from the beginning of this, and it's incredible. I can tell you from a staff standpoint, I'm incredibly excited about the outcome of this so far today and how it's going to link with our biennial goals for the council. It's great work, everybody.
Great. Well, thank you all. This was a very pleasurable facilitation from my standpoint, and congratulations. I'm going to yield to the chair.
It has been a very pleasurable experience also from our end. You're doing a great job facilitating. And again, thanks to everybody who put in the time in the work groups. That really is evident that we didn't have big stuff to argue about. So we get a little bit of a break now. We're going to recess for 6 weeks, during which time the staff is going to go do a bunch of work and bring back to us a bunch of materials in advance of the May 25th meeting, where we are going to wrap up the vision statement and submit it to the city council for adoption. So enjoy your time off, and be on the lookout about a week before the meeting for a bunch of materials, which, as you all know, if everybody reads and comes prepared, we'll have a nice, easy meeting. Question from Marta.
Not a question, but Bill Thorndike is going to like this. So if he's around, I hope he can see this. Bill, are you there? Maybe not. This is a bit of a trivia question. We talked about the distance between Seattle and San Francisco and all that. Eric, does your team know what Medford's original name used to be?
No.
Middleford.
Oh.
And
This
so
is
that is
correct.
part of our history as well. And I hope we can talk about that unique geographic positioning when we have actions for promoting that recreational opportunity.
That's great. Just learned something new. I love it.
And Mr. Densmore, we can't get into Medford history without granting time to Mr. Densmore.
I knew the answer to that question, and maybe what we want to think about is Medford as the gathering place in the West.
That would be ideal if we had large places to gather, but we don't. Maybe that's an action item. We have no places for capacity to meet over 400 people at one time inside.
That's Eli's plug for a convention center.
Yep.
It's the dream.
We're sure losing a lot of business and trade shows and conferences and association meetings, and we just have nowhere to put them, especially now that the smaller ones that in at the Commons and downtown is no longer. They were keeping really busy before the pandemic. So we're back to the country club, and the capacity is limiting, and hardly any breakout rooms.
I do love the Chandler Egan room, but it is hardly befitting a community of our size. Okay, that gives us a lot to think about. I'm sure it gives the staff a lot to think about. We will certainly discuss that topic and more at our next meeting before we make a formal recommendation up to the council. Anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Densmore.
I just want to put in my oar in the water for, at some point, if the governor decides that we could meet as a group, it would be wonderful. And I think it would even enhance our performance. So I just want to put my 2 cents in for when the governor allows it. I'd love for us to be meeting in person.
And Al and everybody else in the group, we do have the capacity in the Prescott room to potentially host this this group, and hopefully we're able to do that sometime this summer.
Mr. Thorndike.
So anyway, based on my conversation with Seth, I did, put that on to Nextdoor. A satirist out there has already responded. I'm just going to read you a sentence or two of what he wrote, just to give you just how weird we could get. Envision a boarded up, dilapidated downtown where vaccine zombies mingle with free roaming gangs of BLM, Antifa, hunting disarmed, disorganized individual and small groups of patriots still clinging to the fantasy of a constitutional conservative America. Drone and robotic law enforcement units guided by ADL agents in underground bunkers patrol and tase, assault, and shoot to kill any and all those identified by 5G surveillance as unvaccinated, domestic terrorists, white supremacists, or anti-Semites. powerful and virtually free-minded and mood-altering drugs are legally disposed openly in Vogel Plaza and most open street corners. One of the well-maintained and heavily protected by corporate mercenaries building is the US Bank, now jointly owned by the Israeli Likud Party and the CCP. 1 or 2 city blocks have been gentrified into super high-tech smart enclaves, also heavily protected by electronic surveillance, drone robotic guards, and corporate mercenary forces to house the new wealthy elite of Southern Oregon. Chinese nationals and Zionist real estate corporate and tech oligarchs and their families. All vehicles are owned and operated exclusively by the segregated wealthy class and are electric only. Hydrocarbon vehicles and everything else has been phased out by UN Sustainable Development Goals, and lower class white Southern Oregon residents who have survived and persisted are imprisoned by mind-controlled brain chips if they are caught with combustion engines or gasoline. So anyway, there's an alternative vision for us, Eric. I don't know.
That's your neighborhood, not mine. So we can all ponder what that means. Seth?
Yes, so I just wanted to plug again that the survey will be open on April 26th, just to make that clear. And we will follow up to share resources with you that you can share so you too can post your own next door and get more comments like that for us.
What's not to like? I mean, come on. That's a great way to spend the next 6 weeks. Okay. Meeting is winding down. I don't see anybody else raising their hands. Thank you all very much. We will be back on May 25th.